I'm the first native Alabamian to play for Bear Bryant on Alabama soil.
Is that right?
When Bear Bryant was real good friends to Scrappy Moore, my coach. They were buddies. And when I played in the blue and gray game down there, that's where they take the All-American football players in the United States and choose who they're going to go pro with. I always admired Bear Bryant. All my life, when I was a little kid, I always liked football, and I knew Bear Bryant was one of the greats. And also Tarzan White, that played with him, was my tag team partner in wrestling. We wrestled all over Georgia and everywhere. He was the guard, and Bryant was on the end. And when they went to the first bowl out there in Rose Bowl. Well, I played in the blue and gray game, and my coach, I know, got me the deal. He called Bryant, and Bryant brought me down in the All-American blue and gray game. He picked me up in Birmingham, took me down there. At the same time that he did that, he knew about my Olympic wrestling finals, that I made it to the finals in the Olympics in Ames, Iowa, and he was very much interested in that. He talked to me about that all the way. See, he picked me up in Birmingham and let me ride with him to the blue and gray game and back to Birmingham, and then he turned me out there, and he told me if there's any job that I ever needed or wanted, call him. And we became real good friends, and I talked to him about why he was going out there to Texas A&M when he ought to be coming to Alabama. He kept talking about the Mother University, and I said, well, Coach, where's the I really didn't know where the Mother University was. I said, where is the Mother University? He said, Alabama. Yeah, I never will forget it. That's what he told me. So I said, well, what you doing now going out there? He said, well, I'm preparing to go back to the Mother University, but he said, I want to have a little bit better record than I got now. And he said, then I'm going back to the Mother University. And when he brought me back, he turned me loose, and I got in my car and drove back to Chattanooga. And at the half of that game, we were behind 21-7. When that game was over, Bear Bryant got up at the half. He said, boys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move this in here and this tackle over here, and we're going to win the game. Y'all going out there and get it over with. We went out there, and when it came in, it was 47-21. Bear Bryant's team won. So I remember, and everybody loved him down there at that game. So anyhow, he when he got ready to come back to Alabama, I was made up my mind that I didn't like that traveling up and down the road. Man, that wrestling, it'd get to you. You couldn't get any sleep. You had to go somewhere every night, you know. I mean, long distance. Sometimes you'd go halfway across the United States to make a match. So
How would you travel?
They got to, flying, but I didn't like to fly back then. I drove my car. It was awful. It's a wonder we hadn't got killed. So anyhow, well, to begin with, George Wallace, I was going to make somebody that you know, a sports person and phys ed, in other words, and they made me go to and get my master's in phys ed before they let me in law school. But anyhow, Bryant first of all, George Wallace wrote him a letter and said, told him that he understood that he was coming back to Alabama, and that he understood that he might want to have a wrestling team, and that Tom Drake was a wrestling coach. And Bryant called me when he got that letter and told me, "I want you to be my wrestling coach." And I said, "Coach, what's going on here?" I said, "I don't." And he said, "I want you to coach football too." But I said, "What you got in mind?" He said, "Well," he said, "the reason that I'm doing this," he says, "you can't make a boy work out for football except during the season." And he says, by getting wrestling, which is almost just like football, the kind of exercise you take and all that, he said, if they volunteer to go out for wrestling, he said, then you can keep them in shape the year round. And then when spring training comes, they'll be ready to go. So I said, well, I'd be glad to do it. So I went down there. I was one of the first coaches he hired when he came to Alabama. And when the season was over in football, he called me in and took me in the weight room or the gymnasium and called all the football players in. And he said, "Now, how many of you boys want to go out for wrestling, volunteer to go out?" He couldn't make them go out for wrestling. He said, "How many of you boys want to go out for wrestling? Hold up your hand." Every one of them held their hands up except one. And that was the boy who the stadium in Huntsville is named after. I can't call his name, but he played center on the team. He was making a doctor, and Coach Bryant knew it. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't blame you." He said, "You got to study more than these others." He said, "And I excuse you, you don't have to wrestle." So every one of them went out for wrestling. What was that great quarterback you had down there? Joe Namath, yeah, Joe Willie. Hell, he came out for wrestling. I mean, they all came out. And that was my job. And then I had a wrestling team. I took all over the country. We wrestled at Georgia and Tennessee, Chattanooga and Sewanee, and we wrestled all them teams. And I coached it for 3 years. And then payback time came. Payback time came. I paid him back. And here's how I paid him back. He came to Montgomery to see me. He said, "Tom," said, all these people want me to name that Denny Stadium after me and all that. He said, I really don't want him to do that. And of course, he's dying to have it done. I said, "Coach," I said, "that's a good idea." So Burt Banks, the fellow that was on the death march in the Philippines in World War II, you heard of him, Burt Banks. He was in the Senate, and I was in the House, and Speaker of the House, and at that time I might not have been Speaker, but I was in position to do anything I wanted to in the legislature. So he said, he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, Coach, I think that's great." And I said, "Give me somebody handle it in the Senate, and I'll handle it in the House." So I got Burt Banks. Me and Burt Banks passed a bill to name the stadium Bryant-Denny Stadium. But I could tell, I went to the last game he coached, it was in Memphis, Illinois, I believe it was, when he won that game. And I could tell that night that he wasn't feeling well. But he about 6 months after that, before he died. But I never will forget what happened that night. Me and my wife were there, and it's the coldest night I've ever seen. I about froze to death.
Where was this? Where? Where were you?
At Memphis.
Memphis.
Yeah. Had a bowl game there. And I told my wife, I said, let's go over and see Coach and see how he's doing. And I was a little worried about him that night. And I said, no, let's not do that. I said, he'll have 1,000 people over there. And so she said, okay. She said, just call him in the morning. So I called him the next morning, and he said, Tom, you should have come over to see me. He said, not one single person came to see me last night over here at my room. and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was going to be full, you know. Yeah.
Tell me about the funeral for Bear Bryant. You and the governor were in the car.
Me and the governor were in the car, and that was a sad, sad day. That was the saddest day that I can ever remember. Me and Governor Wallace were his family, I think, was right behind. I think we were third in line, the governor and me, and everybody that saw that hearse coming, they knew it was Bryant, you know. Truck driver to stop and put their hats over their heart, and all the way to Birmingham. And everybody, not every one of them, was shedding tears when we left Tuscaloosa to take him to Birmingham to bury him out of that church. Everybody had tears in their eyes. The streets were all lined up. I mean, they were just covered up. And I got to attend the funeral. I mean, not many people got to do that, but I got to attend the funeral, and because I was with the governor. So I remember down there, people up on the roads crossing that bridge, they knew it was him. They had their hats over their heart and all that. But as we left, going down the street, Main Street in Tuscaloosa, everybody shedding tears, and George Wallace looked at me. He said, Tom, he said, I think I'm going to look straight ahead. I said, I am too, Coach. I mean, Governor. That's what he said that, never will forget him saying that. He said, I think I'm going to look. He didn't want to see them people crying and all that. He said, I think let's look straight ahead. I said, I'm right with you.